Alright, so let's go over a couple of options regarding the binding on a quilt. I know that there's several techniques that people have used. This will be one of several. I have another video with a couple of extra pointers that take the ideas to the next level, but first let's go ahead and do a basic approach to binding. That's the edge that goes all the way around your finished project. In this case, we're going to do a table runner. This is for our coffee table downstairs. We'll show you what it looks like at the end of this video, but for now, this is what we'll be using. Took a bunch of upholstery remnant pieces and sewed them together. And I've decided on a green, kind of a hunter's green fabric color to serve as the border or the binding that goes around. I think this color will do fine to create that border, since there's little subtle hints of the green throughout some of the squares that I've already cut out. Here you'll see the finished sandwich, the top layer, the middle, and the bottom part. I've also done the stippling or the quilting effect throughout the piece. We'll go over that detail in a different video, but just wanted to explain what I'll be using to apply the binding to. We're going to go and cut these pieces long enough to go all the way around the finished table runner. So you would just measure your quilt or whatever project you're wanting to apply the binding to. Measure it all the way around. You'll know exactly how many strips of fabric you'll need to cut. And as I'm going to show you here, we're going to cut strips that are 2.5 inches wide and cut just enough to go all the way around, plus maybe a couple of extra inches. Again, we're going to go ahead and do 2.5 inch wide strips. This piece of fabric here I actually have folded in half. I won't fold more than once to avoid inaccurate cuts. You will lose that consistent measurement over time with each cut and each layering of fabric. Maybe a couple of more strips. All right, now let's talk about joining the ends of these strips. You could very easily just sew them straight across from side to side on each strip, or you can do what I found to be a little more efficient on the overall look, and you can actually sew them at an angle. This is of course done before we fold the strips lengthwise and then iron them. But what you want to do for the stitching and joining of these strips is you want to go ahead and cross them in this manner, and you're going to draw the line diagonally across so that you connect one corner up against the other. You want to set your ruler and there is the line that I just drew on it. We then go ahead and sew diagonally across this. Once I open it, you'll see exactly what you'll achieve with that stitch. Do a quick little back stitch on that one, and we'll continue with the remaining pieces. Okay, so we've sewn across diagonally on the marked line. We're going to go ahead and cut that just above the line. Remove that excess. And you'll see that when you open the two pieces, you end up with a nice diagonal seam. We'll continue with the next piece. After a while, you don't even have to mark that line. I tend to just do it without a line, and I can just eye it right across that little piece. In a subsequent video, I'll show you another way to join these pieces before they are sewn onto the edge of your finished project. Again, this is just one of several ways to achieve the effect. Okay, now time to take the pieces that you've stitched together and fold them lengthwise. We'll then iron and form a crease along the entire length of that strip in preparation for sewing to the edge of your project. You'll notice one of the seams there between my hands kept at an angle to reduce the bulking of the material. Continue folding and ironing lengthwise along the entire length of your binding material. So once you have the entire piece folded and ironed lengthwise, we'll be applying this to the edge of your project with the open side out. It'll then get folded over to the other side, where we'll stitch the second side and create that border all the way around the project. Now you want to start it a few inches down from the top, not exactly at the corner. So with the open side of your ironed binding strip, you want to apply the strip to the very edge with the open side facing out or away from your project. So once you've stitched along the first edge, you will come to your first corner, and I'm going to go and show you a couple of angles here regarding this corner and how we're going to continue alongside the next border. But what you do is you go ahead and fold the material upwards to form a perfect triangle, and then it is folded back down on itself so that it runs parallel to the next edge. At this point, you will have stitched along the entire length of the top piece. Then you stitch down the next side. And we keep stitching until we get to the next corner, where I'll show you a closer view of that corner fold. And here we are at the next corner. Again, we're going to basically fold your binding strip upwards. You form that little triangle. Then that top piece will be folded back onto itself so that it runs parallel to the edge that you're about to sew onto. So we fold upwards. I want to hold that down with your finger. And then we fold down, forming that corner, which will be turned inside out once we're done. Again, you will have sewn along the very top, almost to the edge, then you fold upwards. Make sure and match the corners, then you fold down. You will have sewn along the top, behind that fold, and now we will fold, or rather sew, along the fold on the right. Once we reach the end of one end of your binding, it is now time to join the two ends together. We'll need to open one end and tuck the other end into it. You may need to shorten the piece if necessary. Usually an inch or two is enough to combine the two pieces. And here we have the two pieces combined or fused together, if you will. You'll then hold that in place as you continue stitching along the edge. You want to meet up with the stitching at the other end of these two joined pieces. Start stitching there, keeping your eye on the other end. And have them meet halfway down the two joined pieces. So let's look at the finished corner here. What you'll do is you'll turn the corner inside out, revealing this nice angle cut. We will then fold the piece over to the other side and begin stitching this end. Alright, pulling the binding over and around to the back, we will now continue sewing just as we did on the front. You want to fold that corner carefully. I like to backstitch on that corner. Make sure it doesn't become unraveled at any point. Now keep in mind that this is a 2.5 inch wide strip of binding. There's no rule that says it has to be 2.5. It can be any width you desire. You can make this border as wide and as different as you'd like. I just want to go over the basic steps of cutting, sewing together, and applying the binding onto your finished product so that you have a nice edge. In this case, for this table runner, I did want a very tight
I did want a very tight border all around to create a beading effect, if you like. So what does the finished piece look like? Here you go. Took a whole bunch of remnant pieces, 25 cents per scrap piece, and combined them into this large square quilted piece, if you like. Make sure to check out my other videos for a couple of other approaches to binding. Hope you enjoyed the visit. Bye-bye.